Welcome back. We are here for our final best of two for week 5. It's FlyQuest Academy and Immortals Academy. There's a lot more that rides on the series than I thought we were going to have. Starting off this day with the 0-2 to 100 Thieves. This is the chance for FlyQuest Academy to take and tie the #1 spot with 100 Thieves.
And that's really exciting because FlyQuest Academy, they came in. This roster looks really good on paper. They had not like the perfect start, but ever since they've been absolutely on fire, torching teams left and right. The 2-0 against EG was really big a little bit earlier on, so now they have another chance against one of the lower-rated teams in Immortals who are currently sitting in 8th place, potentially to take that #1 spot and tie at 400 Thieves, which puts them in a fantastic place. And I think that does the roster justice for just how well they've been playing.
It's incredible to see how they've grown since week 2 when they really had that stumble right out of the gates. They started off pretty well, you know, at the 3-1 opening week. Then after that, what was it, a 1-3 week 2? Definitely a stumble for them, but last week they got 2-2-0s. They got a 2-0 yesterday over Evil Geniuses Academy. This could be a potential 4 in a row, try to see if they can continue this hot streak, but it's against Immortals Academy. And this has been a team that a lot of players, a lot of teams, a lot of coaches have constantly talked about being one of the scariest teams. Even though they're hanging around towards the bottom of the standings, everyone fears how this team is going to perform on the day.
You know the veterancy's there, because we talked about that a little bit yesterday with just how experienced this roster is and how powerful that this top side can be when given the correct weapons. When Viper and Anda are on, they are really, really on. And that's not something to try to hold back from for FlyQuest here, because they really desperately want to take that #1 spot. And Immortals are still fighting to dig their way out of the rest of the roster, or out of the rest of these Academy teams to get themselves into 6th place.
But right now, diving into our second to last, the penultimate champion select that we'll have for week 5 is Viego, Callista, both banned away by Immortals. The Gwen, pretty typical for a red side ban. Same with the Nocturne, taken away by FlyQuest.
Wanting to make sure that some of these solo lane flex picks are going to be gone off the board here for Immortals Academy, wanting to make sure there's nothing crazy like that. Same thing's coming on the other side. This Callista has really popped up today as a ban to make sure that these teams don't have that option, which I think is impressive. I've loved Callista and watching it over the last couple of days. I think it really is very lethal in the right hands, and these teams very clearly are respecting that for the certain players. Tomo's clearly one of them, especially when you pair him with Diamond, who's been absolutely on fire lately.
Curious to see what this final ban, the Xin Zhao, taken away from Anda's hands. That's an interesting ban, because I was about to say Lucian typically has been a ban towards Immortals, towards Pretty, because he is another one of those players, kind of like Triple, that loves to play this champion. So it is not only, in a sense, a ban towards Triple, but is a big pick for Pretty.
Now my curiosity comes to, okay, like Viego has been taken off, Gwen has been taken off, but you've left up a couple of other champions, so like the Karma Lulu, which is one possibility that has come through. I love that the Yumi hover comes in immediately. But Akali also is another one that I'm sure that Triple and Kumo can both flex on in that particular regard. Oh, NXI going to his Kindred would be really cool here.
Look at that, though. Even despite the fact that there is that Akali left open, they decide instead to try to see if they can have this really powerful duo. Whenever you have the Xin Zhao band, Kindred goes immediately up in priority when Lulu and Karma have both not been banned too. I almost wonder if FlyQuest is just going to go for the Lulu, Kindred, Braum. We saw what happens when you have like a Karma, Braum with something like Xin Zhao before, but now it's the Kindred that can also take full effect of it.
Even easier to access at level 1, but immediately Immortals, they're kind of stomping out some ideas, because Ziggs is going to be able to play super far back with a lot of AP and a lot of wave clear to work into it, and it's a lot of range that you get that you don't have that interaction with at level 1 or even future points into that game. And I am curious about what they're going for. Thresh is an interesting idea, just because it's, again, one of these picks that, like, if Lulu's in that bottom lane, you can pressure the Thresh at least a little bit. The hooks are going to be a threat at some point, but also it's a lot of safety for the Ziggs, so now Ziggs can play a lot further up, play with those bombs, play with the Q, play with everything else in a much more aggressive fashion than previously, where you got to bounce them. It's a lot more mechanically intensive than just standing forward, throwing Qs at people who are in the fight, and you lanterning out when you need to.
I also see it as a big takeaway. Anytime I see Diamond on the Rift, if there's the Thresh not banned away, you want to take it, so he's not the one playing that, because he is incredibly confident on that champion. In fact, for myself, whenever I've casted Diamond, I don't think he's ever lost on Thresh. He has lost a couple of games when I'm not casting, but when I'm there, he's got the caster buff for Thresh.
Must be. And thankfully, he's not going to get that one here for Immortals because they're going to take it away. Joey had some really impressive play on it yesterday, if you recall. Yesterday, our series with this FLYA Immortals Academy, Joey was popping off with some of the flesh for some of the thresh plays and some of the hooks that had come through and the lantern saves that had come out throughout the entirety of the series. So Joey looked really good on it yesterday. Hopefully, into the master himself, Diamond, he can make himself known.
As we get into the second part of the ban, Camille taken away from Viper, that split push potential, but this Victor ban as well towards Triple. Especially when you have Lucian this early on, we've seen that Victor has been slowly rising again in priority. With the recent buffs and costs towards a lot of the mage items, Victor has felt like he's been a bit more of this contested pick, especially when you need something later in to counter.
It's easy to blind in some matchups. I think it's a little rough, but with the taking down of Lee Sin and some of the other laners, especially when like Nocturne gets banned and things like that, even when Lee's taken off, it's a very slow pick. Triple is extremely good at it though, and when Triple plays it, it doesn't look like a slow pick at all. It looks like something that can skirmish early into the game, and that's what's so impressive about it. That's why it's so feared, and that's why right here on Immortals, they're taking it off. I think if I recall, in their 2-0 yesterday, it was like 3 kills or something Triple had in the very early parts of the game, and on a Victor, that's pretty much unheard of unless you're just like outright skirmishing or team fighting, which makes it all the more impressive just how easy it was for Triple to get to that benchmark.
In fact, I think they were able to win that game in like 23 minutes, something like that, it was super far ahead as, here we go, not the final pick, but going for set. The flexibility that this has. Triple, Kumo, they could both play it. Hell, it could be played for Diamond in the bot lane. You don't know right out of the gates just yet.
Oh, goodness. I want to see it on Diamond really badly. The Thresh, it is fantastic for Diamond. Don't get me wrong, but yesterday, he was sprinting around the map on this set, making everybody's lives miserable for who it was that they were playing against, which was really nice. The Rise is an interesting decision, whether that's going into set. If set goes into a solo lane, I think that's a possibility because of how easy it is to just root him up, not really take that damage. But it's a lot of really solid mid-dive here from the side of Immortals Academy. They've got the range with Ziggs, but Lucian, Rise, you can't really fight into all that easily without a really heavy contest. And
Poppy jungle coming in for Anda, and the Rise mid lane for Pretty. It could be flexed for Viper, but Viper does like to play a lot of these marksmen top lane. Everyone always thinks about the Vayne, but Lucian is another one of those picks that is more than confident playing into the top side, especially if the Mundo does get locked in, and that is a weaker side top lane to be able to contend against.
It allows Viper to move out a little bit because you have the wave clear, but it's also very impossible or very near impossible to try to kill Mundo within the laning phase if played properly by Kumo. So that's one thing to talk about. I also want to come back to this Poppy jungle because it's interesting into the Kindred and also into things like the Tristana to try to block things. But I remember specifically one of the first games I saw of Ando was into Dardoch when he was playing this Poppy pick into, I believe, something like the Rengar that Dardoch was really known on, and he was slamming that pick into Oblivion, which was some impressive play. It was one of the first times I'd seen him play, and it was really impressed me, and that's why Anda has kept in my mind for so long, and this is a pick that he's gone back to time and time again. So now getting it into the Kindred to shut down some of the bouncing that can come about. Not to mention, you have prime targets for your ultimate when you lock everybody into a circle, a little fish in a barrel action with that ultimate from the Poppy.
I'm really curious to see how he's going to be able to play with this, especially because you look around the map for Immortals, and it is one of those things that it almost feels like a mishmash of all different kinds of composition to get the split push for a Rise, for a Rise and for a Lucian top lane. You have this Poppy to be able to kind of act as a tank, but also an engage or disengage. You got the Thresh to be able to keep Ziggs alive, or even be able to keep Lucian or Rise alive. It really, there's just so much going on there, while on the other side, this is a pretty much meatballs in the front, carries in the back composition for FlyQuest.
I am a little worried for FlyQuest only because their engage typically is, with this composition at least, is really hard to access because you've got like no hard CC that much on Mundo, and the set CC is really hard to find with the range that you've got on IMT, especially when you've got like Poppy to push away, you've got like the Zig Satchel, you've got Thresh play, you've got Root coming in from Rise. But again, the way that Diamond played the other day makes me not worried that much for the team fighting because they tended to focus more on splitting the map into pieces and allowing Diamond to attack bit by bit by bit into each lane individually, which is far easier to try to access the set damage or the set CC in to help get these lanes ahead.
I'm trying to see when was the last time we saw this Poppy played by Anda, because he actually did play it back in Proving Grounds. It didn't have a win there, but it is something that he is more than confident playing. And seeing that bust out here, I love it. Into stuff like a Kindred, like a Tristana, their normal safety they have where they're able to dodge away and be able to bounce around, completely mitigated, as well as just having the Keeper's Verdict to knock everyone out of the Lamb's Respite the moment it's placed down.
And it's also like, it's really terrifying as Lulu because of how squishy you are, that if a Poppy starts running in at you and you have to, if you like don't have Polymorph immediately available, if you get put into a wall, you die. There's no shielding that can save you from the CC and the damage that comes out from the Poppy and the knockup and everything that comes through, especially when you pair it with Rise. And that also will help into the Mundo because you can burn that passive. You can make sure that E is going to be able to do enough. Bottom lane as well as something you can fight from melee range with Set with a little bit of burst damage with the E and Q and things of that sort. So Poppy really good at ganking as well to set up, especially with CC on your bottom side with Thresh and the Rise, to be able to capitalize on all that CC alongside the Poppy with the damage added in. It's going to be really nice. So hopefully Anda is going to be able to do quite a bit. I sense we're not going to get as much interaction on top side, which is new for Immortals Academy.
So I was able to find when the last time Anda did play this Poppy. It was back in the winner's brackets against Cloud9 Academy when he was still on no org. It was game 2. They lost that one. But it is something that he is more than confident playing. He played it into Ornn, Hecarim, Victor, Tristana, and Alistar. Here, I think it's even more important because it can stop so much of what NXI wants to be able to do.
That you can. It's something that it's a tank, so you're taking at least a little bit more of the damage than normal, and it's aggressive enough to put some actual legitimate threat into a Kindred when the time comes, which I think is good. I don't think in the pure one-on-one you're winning most of the time. At best, it's an even state where like your W prevents NXI from actually coming in and trying to attack you in some way, but at minimum, Anda's got to plan with this. And again, I really hope to see a very aggressive Poppy that's just attacking lanes over and over and over again.
Right, and you know, before we do dive into the game, I kind of want to just dissect a little bit more of these team compositions because it's kind of funny. I look at FlyQuest and I see that they have this ability to be able to scale up into infinity and be able to just have that front-to-back team composition that's going to work out so well for them. Then Immortals, it's all over the place. I already mentioned this before, but I feel like their early game actually is a lot stronger than you kind of would read on paper because you'd see a Rise, you'd think, okay, they kind of need to scale, but Rise has got a deceptive amount of damage early on into the game, especially once he hits level 6.
On occasion, I also really like to see a Rise when you're playing for early game go for Electrocute, but we're not going to get that from Pretty. It's just going to be the tried true phase rush, even after the nerfs had come through. I really liked, there was a short time where I saw, I think it was like Robbie Bob who was doing it, who's another mid laner inside of Amateur, who had like, he took Conqueror and went like Riftmaker to try for sustain, which is not at all good in the slightest, because it just, you do a lot of, the thing with Rise is it's not consistent DPS, it's a lot of consistent burst, and so it's really good to have items that amplify that burst, rather than trying to out sustain DPS somebody. And so like Electrocute's really dirty for that, because with like I call it with Night Harvester Electrocute, you can do some really crazy things, but I don't want to get too into the weeds. I know you like talking about builds, so I figured I'd mention it. Pretty's not going to do that.
I like that. I wish it worked. It makes me sad that it doesn't work. It's one of those builds that you hear like, ooh, that sounds fun, and then it's like, oh, it doesn't work. I feel like old Rise, but like, well, it's not the last version, but the version before that, you know. That one would have worked better because that was a sustained damage Rise.
Don't bring back that Rise. I want that Rise back so badly. I loved that Rise. That was my favorite iteration of the champion. I know it was terribly unbalanced, but I still very much miss it. So,
I mean, I also miss old AP Scion, but we can't all get what we want. I also miss old Poppy because old Poppy was just fun. You could always 1v9. You just you know, who's doing the least amount of damage? You. All right, I ult you and kill everyone else. Good to go.
Funny enough, that interaction stayed with this Kindred ultimate, because you just ult somebody in the Kindred ultimate, and then either A, they die on their way out, or B, now all of a sudden there's 2-3 less members inside of the Kindred ultimate defending that area.
It's not the same, and you know that.
No, it's not the same, because the last one was dramatically unbalanced, being able to press that under a tower. But now we have modern Pop, so that's even.
Exactly, and now we have modern Mundo as well, and in fact, this is a very interesting matchup, because normally, right now, Mundo has actually been really strong for being this weak side top lane. With the change, it hasn't really changed his state in top lane, but here, it's fascinating to watch, because you can see what happens when he's not able to really get near these minions, and he's able to be pressured out by something like a Lucian. He gets taken down so low, he can't even use his passive, because Lucian's never going to proc it.
It's very difficult to do so. Yeah, I agree. it's not a perfect matchup for Kumo. It's going to require a lot of armor and a fair amount of health before you really start to get in. And I know you really love going Warmogs first on this champion now, even with like you desperately need armor though. I'm gonna lower this point to that. You need Bramble Vest to start with, just to make sure that Viper can't go heavy sustain and just like drain tank you down with like enough damage from like a Blade of the Rune King or something like that. We see 3 members already on top side trying to abuse Kumo. It's not gonna work out.
Good spot out there from Kumo. They had the ward there to make it a little bit easier, but Kumo was stepping out a bit too far. Still not having the passive pop just yet. There it goes. Gonna get a lot of damage in from Pretty, but he survives just barely.
Really enjoyed that little combo there because there was a little bit of a cut, because when you press EW, you can fit a Q in between those two, but W also has a little bit. So there was like a Q spaced right after all of that because of the proper usage of the combo that nearly brought down Kumo. I was kind of upset it didn't, because it was really, really well played from Pretty to have that combo come out, but we can't all get what we want, like you said just earlier in the broadcast. So Kumo just gets to walk away with his life as more topside resource has been spent. This is IMT's usual gameplay.
Usual game plan is getting the top side in a great position, but bot lane could be punished. You can see the damage onto Keith, onto Joey. The pullback in with the depth sentence. The Flay not there. It's going to be the Haymaker shield instead to keep Diamond quite healthy. You got to be careful. The Flay going to be able to get a lot of damage. Fancy Bomb dodged away to be able to survive the fight.
That it is. Diamond goes in really aggressively trying to find it with Tomio, Tomo, my apologies, as that the satchel charge is able to get Keith far enough out of that fight to where Tomo can't keep going forward or else you get punished. Diamond, on the other hand, was already too close, which is what Joey found right there to deny a fair amount of health. And that, it's going to prevent all these like Hex Flash, like fishing lines that you usually have with like Set, where a lot of people, they'll just take Hex Flash and just constantly Hex Flash at you from the brush as often as they can. Diamond can't do that for the moment, at least, because of the low health bar, and that means that Joey and Keith could burst him out in the wrong situation if his Haymaker isn't readily available or if he uses it at the wrong time.
Ooh, nice hook from Joey. Not followed up, though. Not enough mana from Keith to feel confident to follow.
That's fair. I don't even know if he has enough for a Q right now. I think he's waiting to try to hit this wave with it. Yeah, right there. There's what that was. But if he had E, if he drops E right on top of the position of Tomo, as that hook hits, that's 100% just a kill, dragging through the Hex Mines. But it's not going to happen right there, as a back has to come out. Now, Diamond's going to hold this wave, make sure it's not going to collapse, and it's just going to be a quicker back for Keith, where he's going to be able to come back with a little bit more item. The tier is huge also for making sure that the mana is always going to be there, so this is a little bit easier now for the Ziggs to just perma-push the Tristana in.
Alright, place your bets, everyone. One and all, does Viper go for a solo dive onto Kumo today? I bet that he's gonna look for it. He's got level 6, and Kumo looks like he might die.
Kumo looks like he might die.
He's only level 5, and the play's being taken. I'm waiting for Viper to look. Oh, there it is. He got level 6. I was waiting for Viper. Usually Viper, when he plays Lucian or plays Vayne, gets that level lead over his opposing top lane. He likes to look for those aggressive plays to really be able to get the style points out. But here, he respects Kumo, saying, all right, you're going to be difficult for me to actually cut down.
Yeah, this is a game where I think, again, Viper isn't pulling as many resources as normal. That immediate gank, I think, was just to make sure that Lucian was going to have some advantage, but I would like to see Anda actually really interact with the remainder of the map, because I think a lot of it, especially Pretty in the mid lane, trying to put some pressure onto this Lulu. This, if the polymorph is used on the wrong target, both Anda and Pretty are capable of following up on a gank really, really well against Triple, if that's ever going to be the case. But Anda actually gets shoved out. Diamond comes up here to help out NXI. I think, is this a mark? Yeah, this is a mark, too. So
that's why they called up Diamond. They need to make sure they're getting these stacks onto NXI. He hasn't been able to get a single one just yet. The last one had been taken by Anda. So here they go. Then the first stack for NXI to make... Oh, actually, it's the second stack. My bad.
Yeah, notice, if you will, also, I actually really like this from Joey, where Joey's going to walk through mid lane to make sure there aren't 3 people who can just collapse on Rise, and this would allow Pretty to push out. So if you were to match this Pretty push out with Joey coming in, with Keith pushing out on bottom side... Oh, Anda! He just steals it. He just walks in.
Look, NXI just got smite up. Literally had to use it on making sure they could secure the stack beforehand. And is like, all right, cool. I think I can steal this away from you. And yep, that's exactly what he did.
That's so painful to have to deal with right there, as NXI needed it for at least a little bit of ganking pressure. That's the kill pressure you thought of, but the ultimate gets popped. Kumo's just perfectly safe. I'm about to say that, but Anda can't find an angle.
No, there's a nice ward placed down by Kumo. He's already used his ultimate to be able to get a lot of his health back. He's got the passive still, so even if you want to go for this dive, you're going to have to get through that. Now, bot lane, there's a bit of a fight onto Joey. Joey is safe and secure with Keith nearby. I don't think Diamond, being level 4, actually wants to commit fully for this dive just yet.
Yeah, ultimate to clear this wave is actually big because Keith can shove this back out if at all possible. I was hoping, Pretty hasn't actually taken it back in a minute, so he's pretty low on mana. I was hoping a reset would come somewhere in here to allow them to shove back out mid-wave and also come into bot side with his Ziggs and look for a dragon at some point. They haven't been able to link it up. It's Pretty just now is looking for the back timer. Triple should be able to shove in a wave as NXI camps another camp and another mark away. That's here to support.
Alright, this is looking pretty spicy right now for FlyQuest for NXI. Being able to get towards that 4th stack early on. We're only 9 minutes in and just 1 away from having a pretty big power spike.
Yeah, and now what you got is like Anda's missing camps because a few have been taken by NXI. Actually, Diamond's back up the top side. They were looking for backs, but they have canceled them now. They're going to get spotted out on this ward, I think, looking for a Rift Herald. Maybe there's a competition again. Pretty did just back, so they have that. And their bot lane's deploying up the top side, so maybe they can catch them here in the right situation.
Look at this. You can see that all the members of Immortals are actually booking it towards the top side of the map. They don't even want to have to expend, or they don't have the TVs to expend to try to see if they can fight back against this Rift Herald. Instead, they're just going to try to see, oh, Kumo can't join in this one. It's a 4v5 if it breaks out.
It is. And again, there's a lot of good damage to throw in from a sizable distance with Keith and Freddy here, which means it's very difficult to try to find the right angle for this fight. So I appreciate that FlyQuest are just going to walk away. They're going to try to pull some plates on bottom side away from the window, especially because Viper wasn't pushing mid lane against Lulu because Triple was kind of in between everybody. They could have walked towards bot side, try to catch that wave in the right time if they knew this was going to be necessary. But because they needed 5 men to pressure, that means that at least you get a little bit on bottom side for Kumo in exchange. It's going to be easier for Kumo to not just get shot down by like Viper in the side lane whenever he wants.
You might need to leave fast though, because Viper still can't fight him. He's only got the plated steel caps at the moment. That's not really enough armor nor health to be able to constantly fight back against Viper. The press the attack damage is going to be able to melt through this Mundo.
It will. Press the attack is quite nice rune for this, although the ultimate's still up for Kumo, and the flash is still up. They haven't burned either of those tools, which means it's really hard to try to, kill Kumo, even as this very high damage Lucian in this particular case. We talked about yesterday just how valuable having Rift Herald is with Ziggs, and connecting those two is. So I'm curious if Anda is going to be able to link those two up. It looked like they were kind of posturing for a topside play, but they end up backing away for it. I wonder if Dragon's ever going to be on the table. This is like the latest we've ever seen in a meta where like Dragons are being taken by these teams.
Yeah, just pretty much consistently. Today, yesterday, we aren't seeing that much priority placed onto the Dragons. It's much more onto the Rift Herald, the gold that they want to be able to get to scale up into the game. And I'm a bit surprised at XI. They look like they might have had an ability to be able to play around that dragon. It's an infernal dragon. It's not, a small dragon. It's not like trying to just get yourself a cloud dragon. This is something normally that we've seen played around so heavily in the past. Here, FlyQuest are just trying to see if they can maintain control, maintain themselves at the same gold against Immortals because they want to scale.
Here's what I want right now. I almost want to see Keith just abandon top lane, give that away, go to mid lane, try to force on that, and or maybe move into bot lane and then look for something there. Because there's a possibility, again, 3 full plates of damage means all they have to do is knock down maybe, what is that, like 1,500 health, something like that from mid tower, with a Lulu and a Set as being your primary damage source during that process, or at least the people who are like contesting against very long range like Ziggs. I feel like that's more than workable. Instead, it's just constantly keep catching waves that are being shoved in by Tomo now, which should be the opposite, right? Like it should be Ziggs that are shoving in waves against the likes of this Tristana, but instead a lot of that pressure is being put on by Tomo, which is preventing this movement from Ziggs to find this Rift Herald usage to bring down first tower.
Right now, I'm just kind of keeping my eyes on where we're going to see Anda. He has grouped up with Pretty, and they could look to see if they have these creative flank angles with the help of that Realm Warp. But for the moment, neither team feel confident enough to fully commit towards these plays, and eventually that Rift Herald's got to be used by Anda. It's nearly out of its timer.
It is. They gotta find a place for it. It's about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way done, potentially. Diamond has just been anywhere but bot lane. Like, literally, this is what we saw yesterday from a couple of different members.
That's Diamond.
Yeah, it is Diamond, and now Tomo's on solo lane experience for the most part, as that's pressure down towards the bottom side. There's a TP coming from Ziggs. Now they're forcing on this.
Okay, here we go.
Is going to go down. This is what I wanted to see. It's a little much TP pull from Keith to get it, but I do appreciate that they're willing to grab this before the 13-minute time is up.
I'll definitely take it. You're getting the gold. You're getting the satchel charge. First tower gold picked up by Keith. Anything is better than nothing, and just seeing it wasted would be a lot worse, so at least they're getting the gold. Does seem that topside, there's going to be a little bit of an answer, but getting the flash out of Joey, Flying Diamond, who has that Hex Flash, is going to be a nice thing that they can play around a potential fight, since we're starting to see those pings onto the Dragon Pit.
So on one hand, you just burnt both of your TPs defending the tower tickets, right? On the other hand, like if you're FlyQuest, you're also giving up the dragon here if you're Immortals, because you burnt your 2 TPs getting these towers. You spent a little bit too much. You have to back on this gold, etc. But now also Lucian gets to push up on top side. I don't know who wins because I think Viper is a bit more fed and more leveled right now than Tomo is, although they end up not taking the one-on-one. So I thought maybe there was potential for a fight or for more pushing to come through from Viper, and I think if they were able to pull at least another plate or even both of those plates off that top tower to get it, that would have been a fantastic play from Immortals burning those TTPs, but I really like what they did anyway. Getting that first tower, getting all 5 plates onto the Ziggs, onto Anda, and then being able to catch this top wave to make sure Tristana can't match is worth that information to have.
I will say, this is a really interesting gameplay from FlyQuest. You already kind of talked about how Tomo, they had been kind of left on an island themselves. Usually it's much more about the top lane being left on the island, but it's been working out for FlyQuest because Tomo is nearly the same level as Viper. It's actually more competing with him in terms of CS as opposed to actually competing with Keith, which means that this Tristana is more functioning as that solo lane Tristana that we've seen for so long here in Season 11.
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember who it was yesterday, but this exact same thing happened where we had like the solo lane effectively coming out. I think it was, I don't remember exactly who it was. But the same thing, it was at like level 13 for like the levels 5 or level 6 that we had seen coming in the jungle. Oh, wow.
You think you got Diamond? You do got Diamond! He's blown up before the showstopper can come out, and now Tomo has to be able to get away from everyone on Immortals. The kill's already gone through. There's no support coming in from the side of FlyQuest. Tomo is going to have to flash just to be able to survive.
I like that Immortals is just really throwing their weight around with this Ziggs, where Ziggs is so easy to siege down towers with that all you really need is control of that side of the map. And so far, they burned the double TP, and right here, they see a couple of numbers coming through. Anda with a nice play. Yeah, the Realm Warp also to push off Tristana, so there was no chance. And then Triple maybe was going to look for something. Anda was able to find this with a Knife Root, though.
Yeah, it was a pretty, I think, got the root onto Anda, followed up as well by Anda to try to make sure they can get as much as humanly possible out of Tomo. But I gotta give mad respect over to the side of Immortals, being able to find that pick on Diamond, and in fact bursting him down before he's even able to get that Haymaker shield, because had the shield come out, I almost wonder if FlyQuest are able to turn that fight around.
It's a good question as to whether it would or not. I still think like Diamond being as low as he is in terms of levels maybe wouldn't have made the biggest impact in the entire world. The biggest thing about this game, the props I have to give over to the side of Immortals, is just how much they've been able to force around the map and not give anything over to Diamond. He's been out and about everywhere on this map, and they've still been taking things with authority with their abilities. This is Rift Herald. This is the first thing really that FlyQuest has been able to take relatively for free. But perfectly willing on the side of Immortals, given the fact that they're walking out of mid-game or early game with like a 3,500 gold lead. Right. This composition that is really easy to fight with against this team. Pretty's in some dire straits.
Is he though gonna be able to get the Everfrost to be able to get towards the shield? And there it is, the Lantern to safety.
Attaboy, Joey. The Flash was available from Pretty. I thought the Everfrost into Flash was going to be the play right there, but I really respect that Joey's communication is on point and says, hey, Pretty, don't burn that Flash. Even if you're polymorph, you can make it to the Lantern. We're not going to worry about it too heavily. Now they burn Rift Herald just to push down top tower, which is it's good. It is a tower that is taking... Oh yeah. Okay. Should be one.
Oh,
they didn't get it!
No, they don't get it. Now Anda sees that there's no turret. You're going to be able to use the Keeper's Verdict on NXI. Not going to be able to get the satchel charge with the Flash, with the shield, dodging away from everything besides the bomb. NXI will be able to survive, but FlyQuest, it was so close to being able to get the turret. Sure, they get the one in bot lane, but the play was to get 2.
That it was. They really wanted to grab 2. And it's only like an auto attack, if that, off of being there. So all they have to do is send one member up at some point through sneaky vision or something to snag that tower gold for free. But really, yeah, like you said, that was not how they imagined that Rift Herald play going in the end. It was really nice. Almost the kill getting onto NXI. I thought Joey's flash descent and just going to connect, drag him back into the center circle so that Keith was going to be able to snag that one. But it ended up not quite being there. But Immortals playing really well into our number 2 team right now. Honestly, far better than I thought they would be doing at this point in the game.
Well, this is why this team has been highlighted by so many others. Why so many people have said that their standing in the rankings right now is not indicative of how they actually are as a squad. This is team to fear. And right now, they're showing they can play it clean, clinical, methodical. They've only gotten the 1 kill right now, yet they still have that near 3,000 gold lead over FlyQuest.
Now, you do have, for the later stages of the game, you've got this Mundo, which is difficult to bring down, although with Illusion, you do have at least an ADC to contest, and Ryze has consistent damage to try to chip away at the health farm. The bigger thing is, like, do you think you can take this 5-on-5 in the late game from the side of FlyQuest? Because you have this frontliner, but you don't have CC. You have a great support with this Lulu to help out your double ADC composition. But again, without engage, it's really tough to enact your will, especially when you're down amount of gold. And all you have to do on the side of Immortals is play for the later stages of the game. And if you do so, you're going to have the ability to, like, force your fights in the right situations. And it's going to be really difficult to try to, beat you when you have no engage and no range to work with.
Here we go, the potential fight onto Joey. Joey taking a lot of the damage, and the kill gifted over to NXI, and taking a lot of damage from the Haymaker shield. They're going to be able to get 2 kills. Can they get out of it? Relands for Spite to make sure that Pretty's not going to be able to get the damage with the TP coming in behind, but look at Viper's flank. Pretty, oh man, he's almost getting the kill, and takes down Diamond instead. Pretty still on the other side of the flank. Viper wants to be able to continue the fight. Triple had barely survived the entire fight, but honestly, I can't tell who won because Immortals still have a strong footing mid lane.
Double Marksman is going to be very valuable to have kills on both of those. But like you said, Kumo's the only one with a health bar here to stay around. Kindred, I guess, is going to try, but NXI without ultimate is going to be difficult. Can they actually burn enough health? I don't think they can with the Zig. I think this does favor FlyQuest slightly.
Pretty. Trying to see if they can get on top of him. Triple has TP back into the fight. They don't want to go for the dive. They've been able to hold on to this tier 1 mid.
They are really well played. It could have been an easy force if they had taken a little bit too lax of an approach, but knowing their health bars were high enough to contest, they're going to keep this team at bay as Tomo's able to push out the weight. TP is going to make sure they can't do the exact same thing on the side of FlyQuest. As this was the play, I don't know how you do this as Joey. Like, Joey just gets engaged on from out of blind vision. There's not much room to accomplish there.
No, and it almost seems like it's this perfect, immaculate fight from FlyQuest, but Viper is what really turns it around.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, this ultimate in the backline puts so much pressure onto NXI and Diamond and Triple. Thankfully, Triple able to just barely walk away with the flash. Diamond didn't have exactly the same amount of luck. I also have to give a bunch of respect to Keith, who put in a ridiculous amount of damage into that one very short space in that little choke that they were in. So big props to them for finding a bunch of damage, but not quite able to close the fight out the way they wanted to.
18 health remains on the tier 1 top lane. So close to death right now. But the fact that it still stands means that Immortals are able to confidently hold on to this gold lead. Even if they weren't able to crack that tier 1 mid lane themselves, they were able to thwart the push that could have come in from FlyQuest.
They were. Actually, bottom lane is a solid push coming out from the side of Viper. I wonder what he's able to do in a side lane against Kumo when Kumo has enough of this armor. Because right now he's got the Frostfire as well as the Randuins. Hasn't gone for the Warmogs yet, which has been a first build for a couple of champions. We even saw that on the mainstream. Yesterday it was a Warmogs going into exactly the same build where it was Kumo, or it wasn't Kumo, but it wasn't Mundo with like the comp. So there's that to talk about as well. I wonder how this scales into the later stages now that Shirelius is done from slow, as well as the Kraken Slayer for just a bunch of the ability to shred through things.
Shirelius is going to make it easier to kite back for Viper, especially if he's playing the fights like we've seen already from him. Constantly looking for these flanks, playing the Lucian less like a marksman and more like an assassin.
Absolutely. Also has a ridiculous amount of farm, 30 CS advantage over top of Kumo. I'm sure still does an unreal amount. But you see the pain that can be inflicted by Kumo right there. You saw the Comet in the Q is pretty much all that just tagged Viper. And you see how much health is missing off this champion now. As that's my curiosity in the side lane, is how easy it is for Mundo to just take this one-on-one. That's the mid tower going down now. That's the power of the Zig being able to dig down towers very easily with everything else.
This is honestly why I'm more surprised it took so long for players and teams to be able to pick up the Ziggs. You can see how oppressive he can be when he's in control, when he's able to set up the siege for the team. He's just able to throw out all these bouncing bombs. No one's really able to touch them. And for Immortals, a team that had relied so heavily on Senna Tom Kench prior to the changes that just came into Tom Kench, this is nice to see them have this fallback option.
Yeah, it's still defensive, a lot of wave clear, doesn't scale like a traditional marksman. Keith doesn't have to worry about doing all this massive damage the way that like a Tristana or a Jinx would. Instead, just gets to play from safety and still put out a ridiculous amount of damage, as you saw in that fight just a bit ago. And it's very safe, and it's got a ton of wave clear, which is the one thing I think that goes unappreciated about Ziggs in its time, is the ability to clear waves constantly, not allow the enemy team to look for towers while you're looking for them on your own. In fact, I'm looking at everything that's coming through here. This game is scaling consistently. I still believe in IMT scaling. They're going to find them out, and the Comet reveals
nice. Keith! Oh, what a Comet. What a bouncing bomb.
Absolutely. Catching out one member, Gavin the Comet, means that they know that there's something up in that side rush. They're not going to worry about it. They're actually running right down mid lane. I wonder if they're going to try to force this, because there's members going over to blue buff right now, as FLYA is kind of walking into the river looking for the dragon contest, maybe, as IMT slowly going to get mid priority and also shove into the river. It's a 4v5 right now, because Mundo's a little further back trying to help well with that wave in mid lane.
He might actually be able to join in time. There it is. They're going to try to see if they can jump on top of him. They're going to be able to get the flash and the ult out of him. That's a lot of damage put on Kumo that he was able to absorb and be able to heal right back up to full. It's Mundo, baby. He goes where he pleases, but right now they have to go back as a team if they want to be able to win.
2 dragons on FlyQuest, you don't want to give this one over if you're IMT, because that's going to be soul point. You're going to be forced to fight again. If they can stall this without losing too much resources, it's going to be fantastic for them.
The bomb does a lot of damage, but Diamond Kumo, they're trying to see if they can absorb this pressure for the team. Wild Growth is put onto Tomo, but Tomo's dead. They're going to be able to take the dragon, but they've lost 2 members. They got to escape with their lives, having lost the 2 critical members, one of them being Tomo. This might be Immortals pinging, and they are onto the Baron.
And they need to go to the Baron because they need to pull something right here. 3 dragons means FlyQuest can 100% threaten a fight. And while I do believe that IMT threatening a fight is humongous, this would be a breaking point for this game to be able to siege down towers with a Ziggs and a Baron buff in only 25 minutes. This is huge. Mundo is here to try to stall this, and NXI is still alive. NXI just now arriving. I think IMT wants to turn for the fight. That's what they're best at when they play around this Baron buff, is their decisive turn away.
We're struggling to be able to get this Baron down quickly. You can see the damage that Kumo is able to absorb. He's still alive, barely though, with a thick skin getting the passive back just in the nick of time. They stop Immortals from taking down the Worm.
Immortals usually do not commit for the pure Baron take. They knew the whole time that they were waiting for the fight, and you can see just how hard it is to bring down Kumo, especially because right now you don't have a huge healing reduction on pretty much anyone. You just now bought some on Keith. You don't have any on Freddy or Viper, which are 2 of your other major damage sources. So now, all of a sudden, maybe Kumo is going to be under some threat in fights. But already the damage is done, denying that Baron buff away from IMT, and the 3rd dragon going into the back pocket of FlyQuest.
As well as getting 6 stacks now onto NXI. This Kindred is definitely online here in this mid to late game. We're starting to get towards those later stages where we said that FlyQuest composition thrives immensely, being able to play around NXI, around Tomo. But now we got to see how their positioning is going to be able to work, especially if they can get a pick onto the tank of Kumo. He's trying to survive, but there's too many members of Immortals. They take him down.
And now they can even push for this top tower if they wanted to. Instead, they might just move towards the Baron pit, to be quite honest. Now there's no meat shield to soak all the damage. And again, this is a team that doesn't really play all that often for the actual Baron itself. They're just trying to force you over to the pit to get you in a position where they're going to fight. Now all the vision's been removed, so they can start it up and legitimately threaten the health bar of the Baron without this massive frontliner.
It's going down fast. Viper, the one who's able to take it and do all that work for the team. Diamond wants to be able to find the angle to be able to get over the wall. You can see with the Hex Splash, he's scaring off Immortals. Does not commit, but they get off of the Baron for now, looking for the pull back in on a Diamond. Play in. It's Diamond, though, that they're focusing on. They've got a huge showstopper, and they take it down their support 1-for-1 at the moment. You can see Pretty on the other side. He was able to get out triple. There goes 2 more members. A double kill for Viper, and they're getting the kills.
Double ADC is still alive. The health bar of Tomo was low. I thought maybe they could have turned for Baron, but instead they're going to take the safe play. This is what they do all the time. They made this Baron like no other team. We're back at the dragon fight again. That ultimate into back is humongous to put some damage in. And Diamond had to go so far forward. There's much to do. The hook pulls everybody out of the way, so that means nobody could really put out damage on the backside of the fight. Tomo.
Oh,
what's happening?
Oh. Just got a little bit of T2ers there, but I mean, it's just pretty much right there. It's as you were saying. It's the fact that FlyQuest themselves, they're able to get these objectives. They're able to get themselves the dragon stacking, but the fights for Immortals, they're playing in this one so perfectly. You can see the angles, the creativity in from Pretty, in from Viper is really picking apart FlyQuest.
Kumo has now turned the. There's no hard CC.
You can stop him. Yeah, like you can't stop him. He's out.
I was about to say, I was like, wait, how is he going to stop the ultimate? It reminds me back when Zhonya's was the interaction. You used to just build it every time on Ryze and side lane for free, and there was nobody that could respond to you.
Yep. You're just like, all right, Zhonya's, well, you realm warp Zhonya's out of there for free, pretty easy. But there, yeah, you just see a Mundo, you're like, okay, what are you going to do? Huh? You can't stop me.
No. It's actually really interesting because Pretty has gone for a very defensive build on this Ryze. Because you go for the Everfrost, which is one thing. It's not the aggressive Ludens or something like that. And you go for the Saris, which is normal. But also the Frozen Heart into double ADC is really interesting because it keeps him alive for so long. This is that fight around the Baron buff that we were talking about just a second ago. And again, IMT, they don't look for Barons. They look for fights all the time. And right here, they're able to find this fantastic pick on the Diamond from Joey. It ends up being traded back because, again, double ADC damage into somebody without that much resistance in Joey is going to cause that problem. But then Triple on the opposite side was trying to play with some range. Pretty, unfortunately, was in the right position with the right vision, and they're able to pull the Lulu out of the fight as well.
And that's the thing, even with this build from Pretty, because Ryze does scale a bit off mana, it still works out so well. They have all this damage that's coming in, and he's threatening, he's tanky, he does everything right now for the team.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. And again, this is indicative of the fact that Immortals, again, without some of these neutral objectives that FlyQuest had, would just be completely out of this game, being this far down, having this kind of composition into a team that's got so much range, so much tankiness, no ability. Viper's getting aggressed against right here.
Viper flashing over the wall. They got at least the explosive bomb out of Keith. So with the fact that Kumo looking for yet another angle, they might be able to start up this fight. It's going to be some time before that TP's back up for Viper.
Diamond is trying to get... Oh, actually, they found him
trying to find an angle. He's trying to find a flank, but the Showstopper's used just to drag them away. He's trying to give his life so they can just take the dragon, but now it's going to be Anda into the backline on top of NXI. Kumo taking a lot of damage, so is Tomo trying to be able to get back towards where everyone else is. You can see pretty much everyone now standing around that 50% mark. Kumo's got to be careful. The damage is poked out by Keith constantly. The dragon is secure, denying the Mountain Soul for FlyQuest.
Absolutely is. Well played by IMT. Now they're on the hunt for a little bit more, denying that FlyQuest soul, and they're going to be looking at everyone on FlyQuest is still here. They're not taking these back timers quite yet, and IMT is ready for the smoke. Honda's on a great flank.
There it is, looking to see if he can get into the backline, but he's by himself, so he gets blown up. Nobody was able to show up in time, and now the jump coming in from Tomo. Not going to be able to get on top of Joey, not having the death sentence either. So everyone pretty much has to fail after they've lost the jungler for Immortals.
I feel so bad for Anda right there. He dives in thinking, okay, team's gonna follow up. We can get this massive team fight win immediately after taking the dragon and close out the game right here. And it's just not there. Because now it's even worse because FlyQuest now with double ADC and with no jungler on the side of IMT are going to be in some dire straits here to potentially lose the Baron buff. They have to play. This is their expertise. But again, without their jungler, this is a legitimate just Baron take and a denial of that ability. This is at least a game stalling move from the side of FlyQuest.
No Super Mega Bomb is not going to be able to have that to be able to steal it away. Trying to the Bouncing Bomb. The smite is secured by NXI. They should be able to escape with their lives as well.
They should. Baron buff is now onto FlyQuest, which is just a thorn in the side of IMT, who have had superior fighting. Off the back of that decision, I'm not sure whether the call was from Anda or from somebody else on IMT to go for that fight, but obviously that did cost them a fair amount of the time in this game. I still think they're leading. Their composition still looks really good. They still have the gold advantage, but they're in kind of a rough position now because they have to just wait through this Baron buff. It gives more opportunities to FlyQuest to try to push out these lanes and set up for the dragon that's going to be spawning.
Well, and you say that they have this lead, but my problem is, didn't we say that FlyQuest composition is about scaling up, about trying to see if they can have the typical front-to-back team fight, and now with the Barons give them that influx of gold, and they continue to delay this game, it's only benefiting FlyQuest.
And even better, they get to play in a lane where that front to back is a lot easier to access. When you're fighting in the jungle with all these little passageways and walls to jump over and things to flash, it's very easy. But in a lane like this, where there's just space, nothing but space on your sides, there's actually nowhere really creative to start from. So it's a lot harder for IMT to try to push through Kumo, who's got this massive health bar. Ziggs is doing his best right now to try to push back these waves with his Baron buff. He denies so much magic.
Yeah, that Mega Inferno Bomb has been used so many times just to be able to clear out the minion waves, and there, it wasn't effective enough. 2 towers are taken for the side of FlyQuest. It was a bit unfortunate, but now Kumo, he might have to flash over the wall to be able to survive. He has his ultimate. He has a lot of health still remaining. There's the blast going away. Viper not going to be able to stay on top of him. You can see the health is still coming in, but Kumo now in a bad spot. Pretty's able to find him, pop the passive, and now, Death Sentence catches him on his landing.
Oh, what a grab from Joey, literally in the midst of the black cone, or blast cone, my apologies, able to snag that one away and set it up for Pretty. So much health on Kumo. How long were they chasing him? How many auto attacks and abilities went into him before that Mundo went down?
Took a long time, and it's what we were saying about Mundo. He goes where he pleases. It's difficult to kill, especially now that he's completed that Spirit of Massage to make it so he can heal up even more. That might have been one of the final times they'll be able to truly kill this Mundo, because now I feel like he's just at the point that he's just too damn tanky.
Yeah, 3.5k advantage isn't super high from the side of IMT. And again, when you are this Rise and you've gone for something like the Frozen Heart, it makes you easier to sustain through a lot of the damage that's going to come through from MXI and Tono. But it also means that you don't have the damage to burn through the likes of this Mundo. It's the same with Lucian, where like Kraken Slayer is great and all this crit is fantastic. We are still going to take a while to burn through all of the health that Kumo's got, especially through the healing that now exists, especially since Ziggs still the only character that has that. So if Ziggs is not getting this Mundo, it's really impossible to try to burn through that health when he's got all the healing from his ultimate.
This is so fascinating. Look at Diamond, look at Anda, and look at Kumo. The Elixir of Iron for all 3 of them. For that additional movement speed, additional ability to be able to dive into the backline, as well as that tenacity they're able to get there. You can see that Anda, Kumo, they're both holding on to it, now popping it for Kumo just so that he can have that added bit of sustain and an added bit of tenacity in case a fight breaks out around this dragon.
And it is. They are just completely bullying their way into this ribbon. TP from Kumo to keep them zoned away with these cleavers and such. With this Comet, it does a fair amount of damage to anyone without a lot of resistances, which is pretty much everybody except Panda. And that means they're shoving up mid-wave right now, trying to pull FlyQuest away as much as possible. And that means they could try to play some chicken right now, try to push up mid-wave while they go for Dragon to give away the soul. But I don't think you want to give away any more scaling on the side of IMT to fight off FlyQuest. You have to take this fight as well to prevent Kumo from getting anything else. His passive is off, though, immediately in the fight.
Yes, but the ultimate is still there. You can easily pop that if he's threatened. Not going to be able to get the land of the Death Sentence 50% onto it. The spike goes in on the side of FlyQuest, and Anda's pulled back out with the lantern, but can they escape with their lives? The box is able to get the slow. Huge call! And they got a huge kill for Pretty. Kumo trying to be able to get away from Joey the lantern. This time it's Viper. They're on the hunt, and look at this! Joey's unstoppable, man, with these Death Sentences. He got an exhaust on Kumo. He's going to be able to survive for now with a thwarted the end game potential coming in from FlyQuest. They're forced back around the long way to try to defend their inner base.
My goodness, we're able to actually siege up now on this mid tower. I don't think they get low enough for Keith to be able to actually do enough damage, and everything else combined, this Mountain Soul with everything means FlyQuest likely isn't under a ton of threat. Again, this is why I almost thought they should have been playing chicken longer with that mid lane tower, going for the inhibitor in exchange for that Mountain Soul, as it could have been a lot of pressure for the Baron buff. But at minimum, they do pull one off. I was really hyped for Joey's play right there. Man, FlyQuest came away like bandits.
And didn't I say that it's going to be nearly impossible to kill Kumo at this point? But taking a look at this, NXI, I feel like he thought he was so powerful, and then just all this damage.
Oh yes, and can we talk about like Joey's box right there too was just immaculately placed, and then the prediction on this blast cone to pull Kumo immediately. Look at that over the wall, gorgeous. If this were any other champion, that would have been a kill, but unfortunately it was not, because it's a Mundo and he has way too much health, way too much resistance. But still, Joey is doing so much work on this Thresh, same as we saw yesterday, really turning a corner, really playing his heart out right now.
Trying to see if he can drag back this game for the team. It's They've been the ones with the commanding lead this entire time, but it still felt like it hasn't been enough to fully crack this tankiness of FlyQuest. They now have Mountain Soul on a Mundo. That is a lot of resistance, is a free shield for him. That means free ability to be caught out and dive again and again.
Yeah, Void Staff is completed for both mages, which is one thing. You still have
Diamond! Diamond was able to get the flash immediately out of Keith. The calling was absorbed completely by this tank as Kumo dragged back in. The flash away, the shutdown coming in from Pretty, even with the Lancer's Fight and the Golden Viper. He's trying to be able to get away. Diamond, you started the fight for the team, but the team was not ready, and they're going to be able to collapse right on back onto you. It's going to be a clean ace. Triple cannot get away from this time around, even with all the damage in. They've given the ace and the kill over to Pretty. Immortals can now march it down mid to claim victory.
Neutral objectives are taken so much by FlyQuest during this game. They had so much. The Baron buff, the adequate calling, it doesn't matter because IMT's fighting is just that much better. They focus down Kubo on the front line. They're able to get enough done to be able to challenge into the back line. Viper had a great Zonias after challenging NXI and forcing out that Kindred ultimate, and everything else comes together. I think they just finish off the game right here.
They do too.
That's just fantastic.
I don't think that there's anything that's going to be happening here from FlyQuest. Immortals just claiming victory at 38 minutes in. It was a rough one. They had the lead the entire time, but once the team fight finally boiled down to a foil, they were able to win.
And 100 Thieves is now just, they're breathing a sigh of relief that FlyQuest is not able to pull off the 2-0. And IMT fans, man, this is what we've been waiting for the entire split. The team fighting is there. The fighting in general across the map was great. Again, they still have a lot to improve on when it comes to controlling these neutral objectives. But man, with fighting like that, it's hard to deny the talent that this team's got.
This is why we're talking about how so many teams fear them. This is a team that will find the fights that they need to. They know how to find these flanks as well. It's really good at seeing how they're able to really slowly but surely come together as this organization, as this team. And personally, I'm just happy to see Poppy Jungle win.
Yeah, and on the comfort pick, obviously doing fantastic. I loved it. It was a lot of damage, and they played it really well. They had a fantastic composition in general to play up against their opponents. So it was creative drafting. It was good gameplay. Again, there's a lot of the game itself that they just are ignoring to go to the fighting aspect, but that's what makes them so interesting and what makes them so volatile, and I love that about IMT.
And they get game one over FlyQuest, like you said, denying that 2-0 to potentially tie them up with 100 Thieves. We'll see how FlyQuest might be able to bounce back in our second game, or if Immortals themselves can be able to claim a 2-0 over them. But that's going to be all after a break.